this jungler away?
I think so, given the Sejuani ban too, because that's the other jungler that you might be setting up for if you throw the Trundle ban out. So definitely a priority on getting some priority for eXyu. One of the stronger junglers on the patch locked in. And now, I mean, we'll see if SolidSnake wants to go for that Pantheon. We have yet to really see Pantheon make a splash in this tournament. They did nerf his clear speed coming into the day.
Ooh.
As, I mean, another feature of the patch is that Jack's got a pretty big buff. Definitely been a big champ for Summit in the past, and something you could even play into the Xin Zhao in the jungle too.
That's what wants to pick that's where my mind is at as well. So it's a nice flex option for Estral, picking it this early. Also, just giving Summit a lot of confidence if he's just going to take this for himself later on to the draft. Estral will have the flexibility of deciding whether to do that or not. But right now, Estral might just think about locking in a AD carry blind option for themselves for Ghost. And what better way to empower the rest of your team to go forward than a Sivir?
That makes a Galio on 3 pretty appealing for Cody too, as it's just a good pairing with Sivir, right? Having that giant circle and the taunt to really help empower Sivir, and Sivir can help empower you as Galio, get in there a little bit too. And it would maintain the Jax flex. So I'm kind of interested to see if Disguise wants to take away something like a Galio. If so, then, I mean, that's a pretty one-dimensional comp they're showing early on. It's at least going to be a Cassante pickup for Castle, a very good champ for him, and a deny away from Summit. I will say that if they want to utilize the Jax flex, I mean, Summit's known for his Gnar, and they could put Jax jungle and get Gnar a good matchup in this game if they want to do so.
It's a gamble that DSG are taking if they want to continue or at least try and protect Castle in the top lane. Nocturne was the other jungler we mentioned from game 2, and I like this option. You are giving an opportunity for Galio to be banned away and denied, as that double global options would be very scary for DSG to deal with, but I do like at least trying to secure one of the last strong AD fighting junglers that is left in the game for Estral.
They gotta imagine a Galio ban's coming in now for Disguised, as the ability to play fast into Victor. You pretty much get a free game as Galio. You can protect that Sivir later on too, as we are going to see at least Yunara taken away. And as again, ADs against Rahel. Likely to see a second ban. What else can you use to protect the Sivir? I mean, stuff like
Ezreal.
Are you still yeah, that could be an Ezreal. Yeah, it could be an Ezreal ban here. I think that you're a little bit less scared of that as Sivir, because Sivir can just bash the waves in against Ezreal.
Sure.
But still good defense against Jack's Nocturne. So I think that's a good shout. And something that's been denied from Rahel for the entire series so far. First time he's going to have the option to take it in the second round of the draft.
I think it's a good pivot for Estral to recognize that Xayah would be a lot harder to deal with their very set dive identity when you already have a Nocturne locked into your composition. DSG finding other mid laners that Cody could rely on in trying to get into the back line. Good ban on the Akali. So now Estral, it could be.
Yeah. I mean, Rakan is honestly, you can pick Rakan up here if you want to save mid. You can already piggyback off Nocturne and Jax. Bit of a deny from Huhi as well. So they banned the Xayah, take the Rakan for themselves. This does give Huhi the option, though, to take... I mean, look, Nautilus against Spell Shields, definitely down in priority, but it's a decent matchup into Rakan if Huhi wants to find some engage there. And we'll see what else Rahel wants to go for, because Ezreal's on the board, but again, I don't think this is exactly an Ezreal game.
Do you play for engage, though, or do you just play for strong disengage? Is there a world where there's a support that Huhi wants to go to?
You could Lulu. It could be Jinx Lulu. Yeah, here we go. Jinx Lulu. So, look, into Nocturne, having that polymorph is really big. And with Rahel, I mean, look, I like this identity a lot more for Disguised. I think empowering Rahel was big. The polymorph can be very valuable. And this is a very strong defensive late game core yet again from Disguised. So game 1, they were able to survive and weather the storm and make it later, you know, to the later stages of the game where we saw Disguised get back into this one. Estral going to have to be aggressive and are going to do so with a Cassio mid. I got to say, I don't like this pick. I feel like as Cassio, you're getting outranged pretty heavily by both a Victor and a Jinx. And you do not synergize at all really with a Nocturne wanting to go in. Your idea is to be this lane bully that can kind of get ahead a little bit early on and be very big, very tanky later on, but you're going to get spaced really badly by Jinx. I do not agree with that pick at all.
Yeah, the only way you salvage this as Cody is if you do not take teleport and you go for something like Ghost Flash, and then you
you got Sivir for the Ghost. Cassio Sivir is actually a good combo. I just don't think that's going to be enough move speed to like get in and close the gap. As this, if you're disguised, I mean, you're talking about Victor slows on the E. You're talking about Jinx spacing, Xin Zhao ability to buy space with Crescent Guard. If you can play a fight where Cassio is not able to get that machine gun going with the Q and E, if you're not in range to participate in the fight as Cassio, you go down a lot in power. So I really feel like Disguise had the opportunity to punish in this scenario.
Well, DSG, they are going into the all eggs in our backline carry basket. Once again, a little different of a look here. At least Jhin provides a lot more solid disengage and being able to pop that ultimate and propel any flankers or members that are trying to dive right on top of his backline. And hopefully for Castle, he can at least separate and isolate one member trying to go for Rahel and Darkwings' throat in the backline. But I think overall, if you're a DSG fan, you feel optimistic about Rahel's chances being given the tools to try and survive and carry this game. But for Estral, the momentum might be enough to continue bringing this forward. We'll find out in this game 3. Let's hit the rift.
Gonna be the Conqueror on the Cassio too, as you do always have a couple options there. Will be the pickup for Cody, as I'm expecting standard lanes here. I think that you really want to lane with the Jinx Lulu into the Sivir, and Sivir into K'Sante is only good for so many levels, where if K'Sante gets help, you are dead later on. So we'll see if this pick for Huhi ends up being a big one. I think that Lulu in scenarios like this can be very powerful. I mean, this is a champion that can really warp the game with polymorph / whimsy, right? And as well as that wild growth that can really stymie the engage that Estral going to be looking for in this one.
Clinton's also picked up for Rahel. Curious to see if Huhi, what his first item will be. Obviously, because this is an enchanter, you might feel emboldened to go for something more aggressive. Wow, Cody taking a big trade against Darkwings, but
yeah,
it's not even a super advantageous one. Just shy of a 50 HP difference, and Darkwings gets a nice burst of damage right on top of Cody's HP bar as well. So this is this mid lane is looking pretty volatile, and Nocturne doesn't have the best ganks pre-6 unless he's able to flash and close the distance there. But for eXyu, on the other hand, I don't know, Matt. I think after red buff, I'm paying a visit mid lane on my way to the top side of the map.
I would think about it. Oh, Cody's actually going to get the base, and this is one way to fight for an early tier. If Darkwings is able to stop this, though, yeah, Cody's just going to go base, get that early tier, and try and play out from there. But waving hell, Darkwings missing some CS, still managing it okay. That's the thought that Cody had. I don't think he was really able to pull that off, but yeah, that said, I'm with you, Raafaa. I think pit stop from eXyu would have been a decent idea. Doesn't decide to go for it, though. And it will just be Darkwings trying to prevent that early recall from Cody to snipe the tier.
Yeah,
and
I imagine that maybe...
Go.
I imagine that Darkwings maybe was communicating, it's totally fine, you don't need to come mid lane, just take your camps. Otherwise,
yeah,
that seems like an advantage that you could try and exploit. But looks like the minion wave is going to be slowly bouncing back into Cody. You're at least denying him the opportunity to go for that early tier recall there.
Yeah, and I mean, despite the aggressive trading, we did see Cody not quite able to execute things the way he wanted to. That said, Nocturne has quite the quick clear and has made his way into the mid lane ahead of the Xin Zhao. So, I mean, this could be eXyu walking into Nocturne here in a second, or there's no smite available for Nocturne. Darkwings.
Darkwings should be able to flash.
He's fine.
Yeah. He doesn't even need to flash because eXyu is there for the reinforcements. Darkwings finally waits the flash out, and SolidSnake, can he get in range? He gets first blood. At least eXyu is able to trade it out. Man, I'm a little hesitant to decide whether I liked how DSG played that out or not.
I think it was close. It was quite the flip from SolidSnake, I'll say that. As, I mean, it does mean double buffs get refreshed onto the Xin Zhao, which is a bit of a win, if anything. But yeah, I mean, experience being missed by Victor. We'll see if that means anything later on. I think that was a pretty null and void. At least they got Victor's flash. That is something they can look to rinse and repeat here at level 6. But kind of a goofy war that went on at the start. I'm kind of with Darkwings saving his flash. I actually don't think he needed to use it. I was a wee bit surprised that Nocturne had enough power to get through all that.
We'll see if Estral can punish that lack of summoner spells now from this Victor once this Nocturne does ding level 6, which he should be able to do so before Darkwings gets any of those summoner spells back. And I think the onus will be on eXyu and maybe Huhi. Try and set up some defensive vision, or at least just be on the right timers to protect Darkwings from getting split in the mid lane. But the first dragon has spawned in the game. And normally whenever you see server compositions, you do have really nice push to be able to set up for an early dragon. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, as top lane is getting super volatile. Summit forced to flash that last Q3. Would have been a solo kill for Castle otherwise.
Well played by Castle, as he gets a small advantage again. Said Cassante, big pick for both these top laners. Castle definitely plays a very good Cassante in the LTA. He's trying to play that Cassante to earn a spot in the LCS for next year. As you can see, Darkwings really keeping that Cassio low in terms of the health. Again, the poke that Victor can put down, it is an advantage for the Victor with the range. As we have seen, Darkwings at least trying to use that with the help of Huhi to get out. He is down in XP, though, after the first kill. So I think this is mostly just, yeah, get 6, ult the wave, make sure we get a decent reset on our Victor and kind of go from there.
Nice.
It's a good hover from Huhi. Whenever you're Lulu and you're able to neutralize the Rakan a little bit and those roams, that's always a win, because if you keep the game stable, well, that makes for a very happy camper for a Lulu later on, because Lulu with doubles can be quite scary.
Yep. Huhi getting super close to killing Winsome, but Winsome able to use all of his HP successfully to hold that wave, even delaying Darkwings' own recall and setting up a decent advantage for Cody to maybe find a timer to look somewhere. Although Cassiopeia roams this early on are not the most threatening to the side of Disguise.
We do have, it looks, Darkwing's not going for the Roa build on the Victor. Looks like to be going for the Torch.
Ooh.
A little bit more early damage from Darkwings, as this is very much a 2-threat comp, but it's definitely important to cite. I mean, look, makes sense against the Cassio. You have a long fight against Cassio. Cassio is going to win most of those. And Torch does a lot of damage if you are able to pick this one up on the Victor. So this to be the call from Darkwings.
I also like it just because if DSG had both of their carries playing for super scaling builds, then you're kind of waiting for both of them to come online. Maybe with an early Lost Chapter item, this allows for one of your carries to be an earlier bridge while the other one is still scaling on up. So that, because right now your only early bridge is eXyu on Jhin, and just making sure that these carries are getting farm and getting to the point where they can team fight. And as you called out, Cassiopeia is always going to be a huge late game terror to deal with, as we're about 20 seconds out from the Grubs.
Yeah, Grub spawning. Actually kind of curious, Darkwings did the Q evolve first for the move speed in this matchup, so going to try and use those Qs to get a little bit of bonus move speed, maybe space the Qs from Cassio. It's an option, but you can see the laser isn't, you know, you don't have a secondary laser, and he's got 17 stacks. Given the assist, he already had the first evolve for his Hex Tech core abilities. So gonna buff up the Q first instead of the E. Definitely a matchup reliant choice. That said, I also think it is a game reliant choice to likely drop the Grubs if you are DSG. I say that, and they have still made it up here first and might be looking for a 4v4. If they find an elongated poke identity, it might be okay, as Cody's going to war.
Solid does have level 6 available, but they haven't popped the trigger yet. Cody's forced to flash away. Now Summit, along with the engage of SolidSnake, able to coordinate a dive onto Darkwings' Victor, but Solid goes way too deep. Dies to the turret shot, plus Huhi being able to find the Glitter Lance on top. Estral ending up trading 1-for-1.
Darkwings didn't have the flash up yet, whereas Cody did. That's going to hurt the Victor a little bit, but not a game breaker. Is oh no, Huhi? He was trying to hold the wave. He flashes and he's still going to go down. No, he gets
Huhi barely surviving. Sorry, War, if you have to see that. A little Little anxiety attack in.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I gotta say, that is ult and flash down from Winsome. That's a no grub play. That's a big mistake from Estral to actually go for that play. I mean, if you kill Huhi, that's, I mean, fine, but that's not worth giving over grubs for. So, like, when it's all said and done, yes, Victor was removed from the map, but this is Disguise getting all 3 grubs. I think that's a huge mistake from Estral to not play for that objective. Going for the kill on the Lulu instead, they wasted a lot of tools and tempo and lost their window to try and fight for these grubs. So that's a good pickup from Disguise.
It's crazy because you can almost see the thought process behind it. eXyu was too far away taking out the control ward, and so Estral thought, okay, we have the damage window, we can pop this guy, and then we'll have a numbers advantage for grubs. But the fact that Huhi survives, DSG, now the owner of 3 grubs, and now they can shift their attention to this dragon. Ghost pops on the hunt. eXyu goes in, able to sidestep the grand entrance, now dashes to the safety of Rahel, but still not enough time for him to get out alive. That's the feat of warfare being secured by Estral, and it should be their dragon to claim.
Dragon's still kind of a relegation prize at this day and age versus the grubs. So I think Disguise is still going to be okay with that, but a bit of an oopsie from eXyu to get caught out there. Again, no flash, no crescent guard, and a good ult by Ghost to make sure they were able to run down the Xin Zhao. So bit of a trade at tempo. As I do think eXyu is overreaching by looking for the dragon there after the grubs. I think that's a, you know, kind of take your camps, you can give it over and then try and be strong afterwards. Going for both. Bit of a mistake there. SolidSnake able to punish.
We'll check him back onto this top side. Ever since our near-death experience from Summit burning the flash, he's been able to at least still hold his own in this lane. We know that we said before that this was a nice matchup that Castle was able to lock down for himself with a Cassante. The big thing I want to see from Disguise's point of view is if Castle can continue to take advantage of this lane and be a bigger threat in these team fights, because...
Yeah. I mean, you're looking to control the Jax. Jax actually starts to scale really hard into this matchup. So Summit, in theory, could be a bigger late game factor. As we do see Paranoia dropped, and that is Huhi found. He has no flash. He's on the wrong side of the wall, and I think he was going for that control ward, and he's just going to be going down.
Wait. Okay. They're trying to gift it over to Ghost. Nice patience there from Estral, as Huhi was able to sidestep the Boomerang Blade, but can't sidestep the auto attacks. And now Ghost finds himself 2 kills up in this game 3. A big story of this series and for Estral as a whole ever since this roster was formed is trying to give Ghost the keys to the kingdom, give him these early game advantages so that he can try and help the team close out the games in rapid fashion.
I mean, this Sivir being where she's at right now, Sivir, again, when you're a big hyper carry like Sivir, if you're able to auto attack, you can do so much work throughout a fight. One of the strongest hyper carries we have in League of Legends. That said, I'm concerned about Sivir's ability to auto attack in these fights. Victor plus Jinx plus Lulu, your identity to play with range. Do what Rahel is doing now. Utilize the I mean, it was buffed up 1 through 9. It's the same range now at 9, but they gave Jinx 20 range on her Q level 1. That's a big deal, and helping make sure that Jinx can get to these big states where, again, like, you're likely to go Kraken Slayer into the Hurricane, and those rockets get to hit everyone in the backline, whereas Sivir, if you aren't closing the gap, it can be tough to fight through that. And that's exactly what the Cassante, the Xin, the Victor, the Jinx, the Lulu, all 5 champs are going to try and hold the line and hold that space for the range advantage that Disguise will have in this game with the champs they have on paper. The onus is on Estral to break that. And I think it's tough. I really think it's a challenge to break that later on in this game.
Outside of Estral finding a random 4,000, 5,000 gold advantage, I'm in the same boat with you, Matt, because that has kind of been the trend for Estral in a lot of the games they are able to win. Like, even if the draft is set up for success for them, it does take a large amount of just stat advantages for Estral to be able to kind of just walk in and wallet diff you in these big game moments, where we are about a minute away from Rift Herald spawning, 2 minutes from the second dragon of the game, as the first one was taken fairly late into this game 3. And right now, White Item Spike's starting to come online, as you confirmed it. Blackfire Torch is secured here for Darkwings. This will give him a little bit of extra juice on this first item spike.
So far, 1k gold advantage for Estral as the plates fall. Summit doing a little bit of work with his pick in the top lane as he blinded the Jax, which did see some buffs. And it's doing all right into the castles. Cassante, I think that Cassante later on in fights, the W can be so valuable, just going unstoppable and peeling for the Jinx. And I feel like that's where DSG, again, they have good cohesion in this one. Because at least, like, we thought they had a somewhat cohesive draft in the last game at Summit. Oh, hold on.
Redemption here. Winsome maybe linking up with SolidSnake. It's a 4-man dive onto the top side, and just in time as the Rift Herald is about to spawn in the next 6 seconds with all of Estral's forces on this side of the map. This objective should belong to them unless Disguised have something else to say about it.
They got first brick off that, so feet secured. Big deal given they were down 3 grubs, and while Rahel did snipe one, as the rocket connected on the Winsome, yeah, it's going to be Disguised giving that side of the map and trying to push for the gold they can find elsewhere. As though they will play the bot wave all the way in, getting Darkwings some farm and kind of getting him back into the game. Again, that 0-2 start for Darkwings. Some pressure thrown at mid for sure as Snake. I mean, he pretty much traded this flash in his life to make sure the Victor died. So Darkwings at least able to slingshot back a wee bit, as Cassio is going for that slow build with the Roa into the Seraphs this game. And honestly, almost at a double evolve. I mean, again, the Cassio, like this matchup, you can get your farm. It's just later on, these lasers, you weren't tanky enough to really sustain them. And that is where the Disguise comp have to be very disciplined in playing around that Jinx range of 600 plus. If they can play around that, they will have an advantage. If these paranoias, the quickness from Winsome and the Rakan layering that over the top connects on Disguise, they are not able to prevent that. That is where things can get hard and their carries will be vulnerable. And so far, Estral, they're going to have at least a little bit of a gold advantage going into Disguise to help break that range advantage, which will help out a lot, having those extra stats to try and get through. So game state decent for Estral right now. We'll see what happens with this Dragon, as it looks like Disguise still pretty keen to kind of swap sides of the map and get their farm.
I was actually surprised to see that Disguise were not able to set up better vision to be able to just rip the Dragon on spawn. The fact that Estral had enough...
Yeah,
like they had enough time to be able to take the turn on the top side, make the play, and Solid's ultimate is still back up, so that threat of paranoia is enough for DSG to not even challenge them. So Estral are getting nearly every objective of this game so far outside of the 3 grubs.
They really want to get Victor to that Torch plus Leandri's point, and then they can think about fighting. I think that plus getting Jinx, the Hurricane, honestly, it kind of makes sense to wait and see if you're Disguised. So I feel like they're playing on the timer that's going to be good for them, which, to be fair, is an improvement from game 2, right? They played into the mid-game comp of Estral way too fast, and Estral took full advantage of that. So I feel like the discipline here for Disguise, we definitely saw it in game 1, a steady game pace where they had that defensive identity, was a very winning scenario for them. And it feels like they've kind of gone back to that in this game 2 and have been more respectful of the timers in the first few minutes of this game.
And I know people might be looking at the game and going, but wait, Estral don't necessarily have a mid-game spiking composition because they have scaling in Sivir and Cassiopeia. But we have to go back to what we discussed during the draft phase, is that there's this distinct range advantage. That's where the scaling factor comes in for Disguise in terms of giving them an edge over Estral.
Yeah, Lulu's scaling is crazy too. I mean, the items, the attack speed steroid you can give, wild growth, incredibly valuable champion if Lulu's not dealt with in these fights. So we'll see if Huhi can, I mean, we already mentioned Huhi. He played mid lane 11 years ago, playing in this promotion tournament, going up against Dignitas and dropping to them in that game 5 against Team Fusion before he even played mid lane for CLG and did what he did with his LCS career. Fighting to keep that spot for himself here on the support, maybe trying to channel back some Lulu support, or Lulu mid support hands of the passes. eXyu
going aggressive on the Ghost, and Summit with the TP flank, or I don't know how he got there, but he just ended up dying. Paranoia goes through, but DSG are still pushing forward through the darkness, and they are the light that are able to pursue Estral all the way to the end. Nice snipe from Rahel with the super mega death rocket, finds the snake in the back line. DSG don't drop a single man. Estral lose 3.
good fight for Disguise, as again, that defensive identity is easier to keep when you're diving a turret. Summit went under the turret with that flank, trying to find Huhi on the Lulu, but he survived with plenty of health to spare. And that attempt on an overreach for a mid-outer turret, I know Summit's that old coach and LS would be disappointed with that. It's a pet peeve of his, and rightfully so, because Estral trying to go for the mid-outer turret, don't find it, and lose a ton. And look at the replay. It's eXyu that starts the engage. Castle has a very good TP in with Darkwings, as Summit, again, went around, and the positioning just wasn't there. The Cassio and Saber cannot step up to auto under the turret, and they're outrange. It's a lot easier to have that range advantage if you're trying to siege like that. So I feel like the fight that Estral took is severely advantaged in favor of Disguise from the start, whether the turret falls or not. And that is a mistake for a fight, because that's not the identity they're looking for. You want to get them out of the map, out in open space, and then find the paranoias where you have plenty of ways to close the gap. Not under a turret where you're already fighting to get through that damage and don't have the angles given the terrain that you're in that scenario.
Patience is rewarded for Disguise as they opt out of taking fights against Estral in both of those mid-game objectives in the Rift Herald as well as the second Drake. And they wait for Estral to either get too antsy or too, how do you say, a little too eager to try and start a fight and force the dive in bad conditions that played into the hands of DSG. And it is kind of funny to see how both of these teams are just, hang on, paranoia. Where's the darkness going? Oh, they're just trying to obscure vision so that eXyu can't get into the pit. The Otacon being ripped by Estral right now. Winsome doing everything he can to block the front door. And credit to Estral, a brilliant take on the Otacon.
Very good find. They picked up 16 flowers off that. Looking at the experience, well, we can see it. Summit's up, Cody's even, Ghost is up. That's a great pickup from Estral. Caught us a little bit off guard here on the desk here, Raafaa, as they ripped it, and that paranoia, hiding the info, stopping eXyu from getting in between that and the miasma. That's a big win.
Once again, Estral, even though the dive into the tower was a little ill-advised and mis-executed, they're not letting that get the best of them mentally and bounce right back into playing the strong objective game. Third dragon is about to spawn in the next 35 seconds. Do DSG feel confident to take this fight, or do they want to continue farming on up?
Well, they're going to siege through that wave mid. And yeah, I mean, this pocket is good enough where I cannot see a world where DSG signs up to drop this space. Darkwings is almost down to full level. If they can get Cody to 15, I think that's a pretty nice boost, but we're not really looking at any significant levels that are needed or necessary for Disguise. I think it's just going to be about holding these control wards with the Victor and making life hard. Summit's doing his best to create an angle here, but this is good defense by Disguise so far. Protecting their pocket from mid into here as, a lot being burned. Paranoia.
Rahel could have been the target, but he steps out of vision there. But they're looking at Darkwings, who's forced to flash on the wall. Long growth already used, and now Rahel might looking for the reset. Opens up. Rockets firing from the blaster of Fishbones, but Summit is able to trade one back on the castle. Looking for eXyu as he's forced to flash away. Summit tries to flash in, but cannot find the counter-strike. Right on top of it now. Rahel finds this moment. Flashes, gets another reset, and now eyes are all on Cody. Petrifying Gaze, I think, was already used in this fight, so Rahel is going to take caution in trying to challenge the Snake. But it's enough for Disguise to get the numbers advantage and look for the dragon in the aftermath.
Darkwings living with a sliver of HP was so important in that fight. He added so much with the lasers, as the dragon is going to be done on vision, but cannot be stopped by Estral. As again, Darkwings living was significant, and you can see in these longer fights, as long as Disguise retreats, they can always use their range, and once Estral's big tools are out, their ability to close the gap, it's a lot harder, and that is when the Jinx Lulu can take over. A beautiful example in that fight of how both comps want to play, and it's Disguise because they kept Darkwings alive, and because Rahel has such good positioning throughout this, they win. As the execute comes down onto Darkwings, he gets out with just a sliver. Castle was doing his best to tank everything up, and then Rahel takes over in the back half as the damage that he's able to do. And then again, tools are down, walk backwards, use your range advantage, keep on walking backwards. You got to get through the lasers, get through the 650 plus range of Jinx. You have to get through the Lulu Glitter Lances as well. That's the fight that Disguise wants. They end up finding it in the back half, and they beat up Estral in the fight and take the dragon.
If Estral cannot explode the AD carry or the mid laner at the beginning of the fight, it's so hard to play in the extended trade, which Estral, knowing that Darkwings didn't have a flash after the previous fight, are able to punish that beautifully. A minute away from the Baron spawning, as now Estral have the opportunity to establish that line of aggressive vision control in this blue quadrant.
I mean, that's a kill. I don't think they get anything else more, as they're going to lose away for that actually bot. So it's not an awful loss here for DSG, but still it slows down the Victor scaling, which is quite big. Darkwings has been set behind quite a bit. He is almost down 2 levels versus the Cassiopeia. And Victor, I mean, you can be a real force in nature and real tough to deal with in these fights as Victor. If you get going, I think they very intentionally waited for the Victor's Leandries to be done before they looked for fights, looking at how they played around that second dragon, Raafaa. They found it a good fight around that last dragon. But yeah, I mean, Darkwings, you got to imagine with all the focus that he has down on him, he's probably got to be looking for his Seekers here next. Either that or some pen if he wants to try and go Glass Cannon.
It's going to be Darkwings' call to make now for Estral. Having Summit push through the bottom side of the map, has TP available. So does Cody, who is linking up with the rest of the team, trying to feint for a early start and rip on this Baron. You can do it with Cassio and SolidSnake and Ghost, just the 3 of them. But eXyu is going to face check. They get vision onto the Baron, so eXyu knows that the Baron is being slowly taken down. 4K, are they committing to this? Miasma is thrown down, but he might have the range. He goes in, he's gonna chance it. Here comes the smite! eXyu says thank you for the Baron leash, and Cody is in a world of trouble. Forced to flash over the wall. SolidSnake in Narnia as he's trying to find a place to safely recall before the rest of Disguise finds that he is behind enemy lines. And SolidSnake knows that the world is coming to an end. Tries to take a wolf camp, but Darkwings also will take his life.
I don't know about that call from Estral. Even if they get the Baron, the fight afterwards is going to be abysmal, as they kind of stuck themselves between a rock and a hard place. And that Baron, not only going to the side of DSG, but also the kills afterwards. This is now a 3K gold lead for a Victor, Jinx, Lulu comp. It doesn't look like DSG is going to look back from that. I really feel like Estral missed out on their windows to push this game forward. And this is just a bad call. This is a desperate call. I don't know what conditions they're making this call off of. And yeah, I mean, while Snake is able to spell shield Castle, getting him out of the pit, he's low. eXyu finds the Spite Steal. And again, whether that Baron goes the way of DSG or not, you're going to lose at least 3 Barons from even starting it. And that's kind of the break point for whether it's worth it or not. So I feel like a really tough team call there from Estral. They got caught out pretty bad, and Disguise takes him down.
And now that Disguise find themselves with a near 4,000 gold advantage at 26 minutes, just a minute before the 4th dragon spawns, they can really take advantage of this Baron buff on their side, try and challenge this tier 2 turret, or at least force Estral to respawn on multiple side lanes and continue ramping up this gold lead. Darkness is thrown under cover. Xin Zhao throws himself into the middle of all 3 members. The Wild Growth on top just to stall time. Xin Zhao goes down, but the darkness has gone away for Disguise, as they can find a chance to see if they can reposition for a fight. They can always play through Rahel. They can always play through Darkwings, but Estral have to use this numbers advantage to their success if they want to find a way back in this moment.
Yeah, Huhi, just a wee bit disconnected there was the focus, and oh boy.
Flash onto Rahel, forced to pop the cleanse, forced to flash away. Summit bumps him over the head, and Estral rise to the occasion, finding the crucial carry to the heart of the backline for Disguise. Huhi isolated, he's surely gonna get the bonk treatment as well. Flash ain't gonna do anything against Summit's Jax as he finds the counter strike under the tower, and the rest of Estral able to rise and answer the call that DSG said.
I was critical of Estral's Baron. I don't know what Disguise was doing there. The paranoia came down while Castle was top without a TP. It's reasonable to try and play 2 lanes with Baron. But then to keep on playing out that lane in the fashion they did, you open yourself up to a big play from Summit, who finds Rahel on the back line, removes the Jinx. Darkwings was so split because he was trying to play the lane up, and Disguise just don't have a good backup plan as to how to play that one out. I feel like they could have played out of that and didn't need to make that play. Instead, they push up, and man, that's a huge punish from Estral. They're back in the game after a moment where after the Baron from Disguise, I thought that was them going to be able to put this one away. But no, we got some more chaos on the Rift.
Oh boy, Matt. That definitely.
I think nerves are showing, man. I think that's a nervous call from both teams. Estral making that Baron call and sticking it, and then Disguised losing a member and still trying to play out that mid wave like that. These are high-stakes games for everyone, man. I think both teams just made a pretty tough call there. Deep breath from Disguised. Again, the range, the identity they have, they can play slow, calm, cool, and collected. If they use those tools, it's tough for Estral to beat them up with that.
Yeah, one thing very clear, we're aware of other things going on. We have made Riot aware of that too. They now know, and we've been told to continue the broadcast until everything is sorted out behind the scenes. So until then, as broadcasters, we're going to do our best to hopefully continue this Game 3 as we seem to be jumping back into this best of 5 between Disguise and Estral. A lot to catch up on in case you might have forgotten what was going on in this Game 3 here, Matt.
Yeah, well, we have the range identity of the Victor and the Jinx going up against Estral and trying to make sure that they can keep them at bay as the dive has been sound. And coming out of this one, it was a massive fight from Summit that did win them the last team fight as Disguise overextended after their Baron. And as we're back on the Rift, buck 20. And so we have another Baron coming out on the map. And the gold advantages for Disguise, they all pretty much sit in the hands of Rahel, who is their big late game carry, who will be empowered by this Lulu, and who needs to be kept safe for the next fight because Summit took him out in the last one.
That's right. And that is always going to be the goal for Estral. Eliminate the prime carry from Disguised before they're able to ramp up in the fight, give Rahel those resets on this Jinx. We'll see if Disguise can play a better job of being able to defend their backline carries as you called it. We don't have another objective for quite some time. 50 seconds on the Baron. That is why Estral taking up post on the top side now.
All right. I mean, if you're Disguised, I think the fact that Rahel has a flash available, that's your most important cooldown moving forward. LDR, 4th item completed as Rahel is 1 full item ahead of Ghost on the Sivir. And using the range of the Jinx, the power of the Lulu, that has to be where the hopes of DSG lie as they try and win out this game. While until we get Baron, it will be a soul available for Estral when that one spawns, but at the moment, we're looking at this Baron, and eXyu is going to lose his Crescent Guard quite early, as I think that one was a little bit preemptively casted.
Good for Estral to be able to find that ultimate tool used.
It's a big one.
Disguise now down a good knockback tool that could have been used to deflect any divers onto Rahel or Darkwings. Yet you have to be careful. eXyu, no more Crescent Guard, as he has to be the one that face checks and walks first into this vision that is not on their side. Estral are sending it. SolidSnake goes into the backline. Winsome follows up, but Rahel has the Wild Growth and the Cleanse. Still has a flash. Summit was trying to threaten with the flank on the right side, but cannot get there in time. And now Summit is forced out, and eXyu is holding the line beautifully. Ghost super low. eXyu goes back in. Shut down. Coming in from the DSG jungler. Finds a triple kill. That's the X Factor right there, coming from the jungle position. As Summit sends it a little too late. Might just go down. One more auto attack. The Zhonya's only delays the inevitable, and DSG will take this Game 3 win.
Crazy pause that we had, but DSG with 5 members strong looked to be wrapping up this game. It was back and forth, but in the end, dare I might say, Raafaa, ball don't lie. This guy is going to be able to take this one off the backs of their hyper carry in Rahel, as only Cody and Winsome are here to play defense.
Cody and Winsome will do everything they can, but it's a 2v5 against an empowered Jinx. Petrifying Gaze only stops what is not going to be inevitable for DSG. The ace comes through. Game 3, locked and loaded for DSG. They're going to match point.
All right. Let's pray that no more server issues hit us here, Raafaa. It's been crazy. If you guys are still with us, it's been a crazy day, but a back and forth series for sure. Props to both teams here for staying strong through the pause, and extra props to Disguise, who came out, resumed that comp identity, and were able to find the win on the back half of that one off the back of Rahel.
I have never seen any player so excited to jump out of their seat, but understandable from the POV of Disguise and Rahel as they finally...
APA made a sprint every single game to the bathroom, all right? We got to be excited to get up and out of there. Talk about the team environment there. I know they got a review room in the other room. Disguise going to be looking to take notes after that one about what could have went better. But still, I mean, this has been a back and forth series. I do think Estral has made a couple of really nice plays in terms of these dives early on, but we have really seen them stick to dive. We have seen this defensive identity emerge for Disguise. They try and hold the door and protect their hyper carry in the last game for Rahel. The one game that went sideways, it felt like Castle and Rahel were on roles we're not used to seeing them. The two games where we have seen Disguise play the roles we're used to seeing fit that team of 5, it hasn't been one-sided, but it has gone their way in the end.
DSG being able to clutch up when it mattered, and still in these scenarios when you don't know when you're going to get back into the game, I think just props to DSG for being able to lock in and carry through their win conditions well on this game 3. They now find themselves at match point, 1 game victory away from being able to advance and take on Luminosity in the upper finals. We're going to cool down for a minute. We'll see you hopefully on the other side. There was a reason why we only mentioned that we were just going to be breaking down post game 3, because the rest of this best of 5 will be resumed tomorrow. Unfortunately, the instability of the servers have been far too inconsistent. So I think it's just best for the competitive integrity of this series to just resume it tomorrow, when we're hoping that the servers are a lot more stable.
Regardless of what you thought, Riot thought so too. So please stay tuned with us tomorrow to catch games 4 and 5 of this series. We'll have a full update on the LTA North Twitter later on that I'm sure the socials folks and we're working to copyright behind the scenes. But if anyone made it to this point of the stream, thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the promotion relegation tournament. Obviously, these guys are going head-to-head in crazy competitive matches, and for them to stick it out throughout the pause along with the rest of you at home speaks to the dedication that everyone has to this space. So very appreciative, as well as everyone working on this behind the scenes, because it's a great pain for them. We just deliver the messages. I can only imagine what they're going through right now with the servers and trying to sort everything out and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you to from the bottom of our hearts to everyone at home, being able to stick it out, and hopefully praying for server stability tomorrow, and we can see the conclusion of this best of 5.
Oh, tonight, man. I need Ewa. Yeah.
That too. Well,
I posted my solo queue rank earlier. It was not as good as it used to be. I might need to fix that for ego's sake, you know?
Well, yeah, that's a you problem to figure out.
It's always been a me problem, yeah.
Anyway, again, thank you all, and have a good night. See you tomorrow.